I'm Lawrence Fraze. This is George Hallet. Thanks for joining me. George was one of my first Swaijiao teachers, George and Don Mackey. When and where were you born?
Akron, Ohio, May 1st, 1953.
Where'd you go to high school?
North High School in Akron.
How'd you get interested in martial arts?
I think I always was. I mean, when I was a little kid, I used to get books out of the library on judo and everything else we'd play in the backyard.
I think I'm interviewing myself.
Yeah, I was probably 10 years old. Then Bruce Lee came out in The Green Hornet. And then right after that, he was in Longstreet, which is where I started paying attention to him. I liked what he was talking about.
Okay.
Then, let's see, years later, my friend was working with a guy, Robert Calloway, and he started talking about this, and it sounded like what I wanted, because
Chinese martial arts?
exactly. You know, I had friends that were taking things from like parks and all that stuff like that, and all the karate and everything. That didn't sound like the stuff that I was interested in when I was a kid. So this sounded like what I wanted, and I've been for that ever since.
And where was it, Kuan Yin Do?
At that time, yeah. And there was a sign outside the door that said Kempo.
Okay.
That's why
Free.
I asked teacher about that.
Free Kuan Yin Do.
So,
And it said Kempo, and then they changed it to Kuan Yin Do?
well, it was still called Kuan Yin Do, but they put the Kempo karate thing up there because Elvis was taking Kempo from Ed Parker. And I think that kind of, that was kind of like the, I don't know if you want to call it the kung fu name for karate.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how you want to put it, but it was more the Chinese karate, the way they looked at it back then. So,
And who was teaching when you took that? Who was the head
and it
teacher?
was still teacher.
Okay.
Teacher Corner.
Oh, so you started right with
Right underneath him.
Grandmaster Gene
My
Shapiro?
first teacher was Robert Calloway.
Okay.
And then, let's see, Tom Collins and Robert, no, I can't think of the other guy's name. But they were the ones that taught on Saturday mornings. So. Oh, and Musa Albar.
What was the name?
Musa Albar.
Musa Albar.
He was killed in his own basement.
To go back to where I was, they
He
said
was
that.
shot. He was investigating something for the city of Akron. I guess it was for like the prosecutor's office or something. And
Was there a light bulb unscrewed somewhere at the bottom of the steps?
Right. Yeah, he was, the second week I was here, he was my teacher for about a month.
Wow.
And then yeah. So after that, then I was teacher pretty much. Oh, Bob Kruger.
Okay.
When I went from Saturdays to Mondays, he was there, and he impressed me right away. I ended up going to Akron U and taking Tai Chi from him.
Okay. Yeah, he was the instructor.
Right, and then he had his own school in Canal Fulton, so I would go out there about once a month or so and just kind of work with him.
Was he open? Was he sharing the things? Or
Oh,
was
he
secret?
was, yeah, he was real good. You
Okay.
know?
I knew some of the stuff with the arm was real secretive and some people kind of open.
Oh, yeah. But with this stuff, you know, and he ended up being kind of a different person, you know, towards the end.
I
Just
heard
kind of concerned about him.
he had some medical stuff with the heart attack, and before that, I don't know if it was dementia or something with herbs or him just
Yeah, he
kind of
was-
changing a little bit.
He was starting to kind of scare me.
Is he still living? Or did he
No,
pass
he
away?
passed away about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, it wasn't too long.
Yeah, it was a shame.
Did you know Feeman R?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you met him and
Oh, yeah, I used to go out monthly meetings and, you know, he used to come out to school quite a bit, sure.
did you get to see him move?
Oh, yeah, I did. And actually, he seemed like he could move very well. Looking back on it, at the time, I just figured he was like the top dog. And looking back on it, he could do a lot of stuff, but everybody else could do the same thing. You know? And you know, it's kind of funny how reality comes out. But then, I think I told you, and I don't know if they talked about it in there, but Rick Allen brought somebody in, and he started kind of picking up on things, and that's when we started realizing there was a problem. But yeah, it was, you know, we worked on a lot of the talks
Feeman
and stuff.
appeared, you said when Rick appeared, did it appear that Feeman's knowledge was limited?
He started bringing them to the Sunday meetings. Once a month on Sunday, we had a meeting. Everybody chipped a buck in,
Okay.
and listened to him. He would talk about, you know,
Feeman would talk.
Feeman would
Okay.
talk. And he would talk about, well, one time he warned everybody because people were asking him about Buddhism, so he warned everybody we're going to have a discussion of religion, so nobody wanted to come. But other than that, it was always on philosophy, on, you know, the Shaolin Temple,
Okay.
and his training in there.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then Rick Allen was the first one to leave,
Okay.
and then teacher went out about a month or so after that.
Is Rick Allen in relation to John Allen? of
Oh,
Green
actually,
Tree?
his name is John Rick Allen. And
Okay.
everybody called him Rick. He went by Rick for a long time, and then for some reason he switched over to John.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but when he was hanging around there, we all called him Rick Allen.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I think he started putting all the videos out and getting in all the magazines that he started going by John. But it was John Richard Allen.
Is he still living?
Yes, he is. I guess he's having some health problems.
Still is. Are he and Siobhan still friends?
Yes.
Okay.
They just talked a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. Yeah. And
So the friendship has stood the test of time.
sure. His son, some of his students, I think 2 of the students stopped in to thank teacher for helping him out
Oh.
just about a month or so ago.
Siobhan has kids. Do you do martial arts?
He has one, Gene Jr., and apparently he's very good. I only worked out with him a few times. You know, he was more advanced than I was. He was in school a lot longer than I was. But he was only in school for maybe a year when I went to the advanced class, and then he was gone. So I don't know how good he is. So.
Did you know there's some new Dick Pitts in that?
Oh yeah, I used to have Dick Pitts all the time. I had a good time with him. I saw Dick when he turned himself in the last time. I just happened to be working in the detective bureau up there, and he turned himself in. And I talked to him about a half hour or so, and then I him away. Yeah, it was a shame. I liked it. I really had a good time with him. And he used to like using me. I remember he beat my legs up one time, and I said, "What the heck are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, did I do that to you? I really feel bad about it. Look at that." You know, he's showing everybody else. Like, yeah. But I used to enjoy working out with him. He was good. He was a juggernaut. Form was horrible.
Okay.
Form was horrible.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah, his dances were terrible. You know, he was just a juggernaut.
Yep. That's what everybody
I like the
says.
guy.
Did you personally know Dave Shane?
I never met him. No. Don did.
Did you know I.J. Kim?
I met him once.
Michael Monica?
Never met him. I knew a couple of his students.
And
George Anderson, I met him. He used to come to our banquets, and now and then he's taught at the school. I've met Vernon McClanahan once, TA. I met him once. He stopped at the school, and our teacher wasn't there, so we talked a little bit. Once I realized who he was.
Okay.
So that was good. But
And where did you start your slide out? Did you start with Master Chang, or did you start through Ho Chun and then meet him second? Or who gave you your first slide out lesson, I guess?
let's back up a little bit first.
Okay.
Teacher came in, and he said he was breaking away from Feeman, and he told anybody who wants to go with Feeman, he understands.
Okay.
He wasn't stopping anybody from going there because, you know, he was the new Messiah, so whatever. I didn't know what to do. And we had a guy named Davey Hahn who was in the school. He started out with Feeman, and then there was a little conflict there, so he came over and started working out with us. And most people wouldn't talk to us. Apparently it has something to do with him coming from a communist country, and he talked about that, and Feeman didn't like it. In a way, I asked him about communism, and he said, oh, no, it's an economic system. And that was all he ever said about it.
Okay.
And I figure obviously he was still, you know, communist or part of something, I don't know. None of my business. But anyway, Don and I were the only ones who really worked on it. Everybody else kind of shut their mouth, you know. So he came up to me and he said, what do you think? And when the teacher announced the breakup, and I said, I don't know. He said, what are you doing this Saturday? I don't know, so let's go for a ride. So we went down to Reynoldsburg, right by Columbus. I talked to Frederick Wu, Dr. Wu. So we went down there, spent the night. All I did was ask him questions, you know, and he answered them. And he never said anything bad about Feynman because he knew Feynman. They were friends. Apparently, Feynman was teaching him the body, and in return, he was going to teach him Lee's modified Tai Chi. They got about halfway through with it, and he happened to realize here Feynman was trying to fix him up with his cousin.
Okay.
So he stopped the whole thing. That's where Feynman got his Tai Chi. And if he showed me a book, and like he said, I never said anything against Feynman. He never said anything against Feynman. But he answered all my questions, and all the questions were coming up different. He would bring all those books out and show me. And one of the things he brought out was Lee's modified Tai Chi.
Had that first set.
Now stop and look at the book. Our first Tai Chi, if you look at the book, you can see how he connected the pictures, but he didn't know how to get from one picture to the next. So we're at this picture, and this picture, and this picture. And that was the Tai Chi. So I went through it. And at that time, I was the first guy to do Tai Chi at our, I don't know what you call them. I used to call them a recital, but we'd have people come in and, you know, we'd have this big demonstration once a year. You know, all the schools, all 50 schools. And I was the first one to do Tai Chi. So I did Tai Chi for Dr. Wu, and he just kind of looked at it and he goes, well, that was interesting. And I was like, okay. So then he had his student go through it, and you could see the similarities. But it was different. So that's when he got the book out and showed it to me, and I was like, okay, I see what's going on. And I never said anything to him or whatever. Well then, I went down there again, and then I told Don Mackey about it. So we went down. And then we got him to come up here a couple of times, and then we started talking. I said, you know, we really need to have him be the teacher. So it ended up we had a teacher going down there, and every time we went down, they kept telling us about Daniel Wang, Master Chang, Swai Zhao, and but they could never get there because they were always busy. So a teacher went down, and he came back and he said that it was kind of interesting, but while he was there, he finally got to meet Daniel Wang. So it ended up we had Daniel Wang coming down to our school and teaching us the basics, and Robert Palmer, and I forget who was, but they were going up there, so they were kind of coming down here teaching us. He was going up there already, yeah, you know. And that's what we were doing until the teacher finally went over there and met Master Chang. So then once Master Chang came over here, and I think I told the teacher said in his interview that he had never taught anybody individually. Well, Master Chang came over here, and we were trying to impress him. Now, we were used to hard stuff. So we're going through just jumping everything behind it. And we started getting the belts out. We were trying to take the belts in half, just trying to impress Master Chang. And Master Chang walked out in the middle and said, whoa, stop. And he had an interpreter come out. The guy's name was Felix. I don't know exactly. So Felix came out and he said, they appreciate what you're doing.
He's listening to our goddamn conversation. Now I got witnesses.
Said, I appreciate what you're doing, but you're wrong. You're doing it too hard. Swai Zhao has to be understood, it has to be felt, it has to be visualized. And we're all sitting there going, what is he talking about, you know? So he started working with us and just started throwing us around and having a good time and beating the crap out of us. And I noticed Felix and Davey standing over by the wall.
And Davey is?
Davey Han,
Oh.
the other Chinese, the guy that actually introduced us to everybody. And I walked over because I could see it. I was like, oh. And I said, what's wrong? They said, he's never done this. And I said, done what? And they said, he doesn't teach any classes. He hasn't for years. And every time he came into our class, he took over the class, taught every one of us, through every one of us. We had a blast with him. Never hurt us. Never hurt it. I mean, you know, you get bumps.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, I mean, his, you know, the way you always talk about how, you know, you just had that sensitivity, and that's the way he was. You know, he'd get you going this way, and he'd bring you back, and you'd have to be on the floor, and you don't even know how you got there. And it happened to me so many times, you know, I'd sit there and look up and say, what did he do, you know? And we had a great time with him, but then teachers started going over there regularly, and he came over here, and that's how we started actually learning what it was all about.
And when was this? 80s, 70s?
No, as I said, it was probably about 1978, maybe 79, when we started going down to Dr. Wu's and we started really getting into this. So, and then all through the 80s, what year did he die? He died in like 86, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then since then, you know, I've heard all these different stories, and I got to go over to Taiwan, and I talked to people over there about all these different people here, and you know, there's a lot of stuff in the magazines you just kind of shake your head. So,
Well, wasn't there one story where you put on a demonstration and you were driving and he was in the back seat and so was another guy and Master Chang spoke for a really long time?
oh, God. Yeah, Master Chang went to visit his friend, Dr. Ho, or Professor Ho, in Chicago.
Okay.
So they needed to go pick him up. So it was supposed to be Davey Hahn and I, because Davey would be the interpreter, and he's actually from Chicago. We went up there and stayed, we spent the night at his house, his mother's house. But they didn't tell us Daniel Wayne was going along. And we're in a little Toyota.
I think I got all the thermostats on off, plus they're all the way down.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about those, just the
Well,
lights.
just do the lights then.
Make sure that there's no light on in the fucking bathroom.